Great. So welcome to the first Arborist Call of 2024. Today is the 11th of January. Yes, January. And I'll start off hosting today's call until Dodger can take over today. So this is the agenda for today. We're going to hear some updates from the core teams. We'll start off with the Zcash Foundation updates on Zebra, the node implementation, and then we'll get some updates from ECC on Zcash D and the wallet SDK. Next, we'll move on to research and implementation updates. I believe we have trading finality, sustainability fund, frost, and set essays today. There'll be some time for any announcements that anyone may want to give. And there's a discussion topic today on detection fees. Finally, we'll open the floor for open discussion. So this is the Arborist Call, which is a bi-weekly call where the Zcash protocol contributors meet up to discuss upgrade timelines and process, protocol research and development efforts, design and implementation of new protocol features, and to identify blockers and unresolved issues. And the purpose of this call is to try to make Zcash protocol development accessible to any interested parties and generally to provide more transparency for the community. Anyone can participate. You can register to attend at zcasharborist.org. And if you want to become more involved and you want to present during this call, you can email us at arboristcall@zfnd.org and request a presentation slot. Then outside of the Arborist Call, you can also participate in the Zcash community in a number of ways, such as applying to one of the current programs, and you can take part in community discussions in the Zcash R&D Discord or the Zcash community forums. And there are clickable links for all of these at zcasharborist.org. And with all that, so for that, we can move on to the core team updates and the Zebra update. Who is delivering that today?
Me. Thanks, Bailey. New in Zebra since the last Arborist call, integrated mining. Credits and thanks to Tior for adding experimental integrated mining support to Zebra at a lightning fast pace, with additional credits and thanks to Strad for helping make the Zcash Equihash solver accessible from a Rust environment. It's now possible to mine blocks within Zebra with the internal miner feature and a couple config fields. There were also several related cleanups and improvements related to the get block template RPC as part of this work. Disclaimer, this feature is still experimental and is only intended for testing. Use at your own risk. There were also fixes in CI and for the experimental Elasticsearch feature in Zebra. And there's the new write typed batch and typed column family structs for strongly typed column families so that the types for a RocksDB column family are only defined once and so that developers can't accidentally use different types for reading and writing. I'm personally very excited about this one since it should make it much harder to make mistakes and much easier to verify correctness. And then finally, Zebra Scan now avoids scanning blocks below the sapling activation height and is more clearly documented. That's it for the Zebra update.
Great, thank you, Marek. Who do we have to give an update on Zcash D and the work?
I wanted to ask a question about the mining support. So this is CPU mining, right?
Yes.
What's the current status of doing ASIC mining with Zebra?
I don't believe we've made any progress in that direction as of yet.
Okay.
Yeah, I think as far as I'm aware, that is just using separate mining software in the same way that a mining pool would. So using like get block template or something, and then which Zebra does have support for.
Okay, yeah. So it can be made to work. All right.
Yeah. I think that's been working for a while. I think this is as I understand it is just for things like testnet or potentially like the backend Equihash doesn't support it yet, but eventually we could add a way to hook up the ridge test parameters so that you could do like integration testing that involved mining.
You
might have missed it in a previous Arborist call, Dara, but Marek successfully mined a mainnet block with a miner.
Oh yes, I remember. Yeah, I remember that now. Yeah.
Mark, we can't hear you, Mark.
Also, Dara is still raised.
while you sort out your sound, Dara, I just want to highlight that, as Ari mentioned, this is intended for testing only. So this was done to help the Keddit folks with their testing of stuff. It is not intended for production use. It's not intended for mainnet testing only.
Yeah.
We have this problem where we say a word like wallet or mining, and then everybody jumps to the conclusion that we're going to build a wallet or make, this is for testing only.
Yeah, I knew that, but yes, that wasn't clear from my question. Yeah.
Let's see, is Marek Strad?
So the fact that it's now included, does that mean that the changes that Taylor was making on top of my initial draft Equihash PR on the Equihash crate are stable?
May still be a bug or two in it, but for the most part, it works. Yeah.
Yeah, because basically, if you can let me know once it's stable, I'll merge Taylor's PR into mine and then do some cleanups on the commit history to sort of like integrate the things together into that, and then we can. So, because I know there's at least one bug outside of the Zebra usage, which is that it's still trying to compile the code when it's feature flagged off. So there'll be a bit of work to figure that out before we can get that merged. But yeah, if you can let me know once the Zebra's usage of it is stable, then I can take some time on a Friday to poke at and get the PR into a state where we can get it into the Equihash crate.
Yep. Also worth pointing out that I think that Trump solver code has never been thoroughly reviewed for memory safety. So
yeah, it'll be behind a feature flag. So for like Zcash's usages of it, we don't have to use it initially, but also Zcash does use it because we pulled that code out of there. So
let's go to Arya and then Mark and Strad and Dara. If your hands don't need to be raised, please lower them. Thank you. Arya first.
I think Zebra's usage of it is currently stable. It should merge into main soon.
And Mark?
In that case, I will probably not this Friday, but maybe next Friday. I will do some cleanups on that.
So yeah, I just wanted to say that the main motivation for the miner in Zebra was testing and allowing Keddit to progress faster. And regarding ASICs, I think all of them rely on the Stratum protocol. And I don't think it would be worth implementing that into Zebra, because like mining pools are like the middleware between GetBlock template and Stratum. Yeah.
Yeah. Testing only. Any other questions relating to Zebra? Okay, let's move on to ECC.
All right. So from the ECC wallet team sides, I don't remember. Was the Zcash D 580 release that has happened? I think since the last Arborist call.
I think that's right.
So yep. So that's a maintenance release of Zcash D. Apart from that, the ECC team has been focused on mobile wallet support. So we are close to having both Zip 317 and Orchard support ready for inclusion into the mobile wallet SDKs. So that's going to happen in the next week or two. And then the other things that we're working on are mobile SDK performance related at the moment. And I'll let Dara, I guess, give an update on the proof of stake.
Oh, well, that'll be in the
That's in
R&D
a separate
section.
Yeah. Oh, right, got it. All right, so that's it for core team updates.
Well, there's one additional thing, which is that for people who are using the mobile SDKs. There had been a problem for a while. There was a build time problem if you were using too new a version of Rust because of changes to the Android NDK. We have finally wrangled the linker in the correct way to resolve that problem. So the next release of the Android mobile SDK will include that, and we should be able to shift back to just building with stable Rust from this point forward.
Any other comments or questions for the ECC team? Okay, let's move on to research and implementation updates, and let's start off with ZSAs.
Best wishes for the new year, I guess, from everyone at Kedit. We have a few updates on the Zcash shielded assets front. The first one is actually the work that was happening with Zcash Foundation on Zebra. We've been building the testing framework, and one of the issues was the mining, which I think now Theo's things looks like it's going to be helpful. So thanks for that. Yeah, that's one. The other thing we've been up to is generalizing the code for in the Orchard crate so that it supports both V5 and V6 transactions at the same time. So adding generics and stuff so that we can reuse as much code as possible. And I think the same is going to happen for the circuit as well. On the zip side, we had some comments from the zip editors since the last Arborist call, and we've incorporated those in. I think they were mostly rearrangements, making things more understandable, readable, and I think in one case less ambiguous. But that hopefully is getting close to the end of things. On the asset swaps project front, we've had an initial design, as I've I think mentioned before. It's been out for a couple of months, and yeah, we are trying to see if there's any improvements or any additional things that we can add in, but I'm hoping that we can get the zip out as a PR instead of just the Google Doc that it is right now, and hopefully in a week or two. So yeah, stay tuned for that. Yeah, that's what I have for now, I think.
I've got a question for you, Vivek, but if anybody else does as well, please stick up your hand. Could you just talk a little bit about why the mining and the mining functionality in Zebra is helpful for you? Because I think it touches on a topic that we discussed in the past in Arborist calls around test nets and testing and the ability to spin up test nets and whatnot.
Yeah, so I think basically how it is that we want to test with ZSAs, and then we also want to test with the native Zec asset. And I think at present you cannot mine directly into an Orchard shielded address. So that's been one of the things which we've been working around by trying to mine two transparent addresses and then shielding it and things like that. So
to clarify, the protocol supports it, but Zcash does not, and I think Zebra does not.
I'm pretty sure that Zcash does support mining to Orchard addresses. I mean, I've done it before.
Oh, okay. I'm wrong then.
So there's some confusion there.
Yeah, I didn't. I don't think it's specifically prevented. And if you've tested it, then presumably it works. Okay.
Maybe Vivek and Chris could connect and discuss that.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, that's on Zcash D, and we're trying to have most of our work in Zebra now.
Okay. So
yeah, I mentioned it was for Zebra. I think the support is not there at present.
Oh, right.
So,
okay. Yeah, understood.
Okay. Any other questions for Kedit?
I missed the first 5 minutes. Is there a piece in the during this session where we expand to talk zoom out on the strategy of Zcash?
We'll be talking about detection keys later.
Yeah. Detection keys, awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
And I would like to talk a little bit about sort of scheduling of network upgrades and what's going to be in network upgrades this time.
And if people are up to it, I want to show you a demo of a competing blockchain that does identity in a really interesting way.
And also
zero knowledge identity.
And also liberated payments. Okay, let's hear from, I guess, either Nate or Dara on the trailing finality work.
Yeah, so we have integrated all of the writing into one location. So that's called the trailing finality layer book. And we're working on the simulator, and we are planning to prepare like a short presentation for the Z-boot, which is happening in a couple of weeks. So we can probably also do that presentation for Arborist, I think. I didn't pass this by Dara yet before, but it seems like a good idea to me.
That sounds fine to me.
Yeah. So that should be ready in about 2 weeks. And we are sort of going to spend some of that time before Z-boot building out a speculative roadmap all the way to what a deployment would look like. Which will be like a roadmap with the steps, the milestones, but not necessarily the dates and things like that, because there are a few unknowns. But that should just help everyone understand, what the sequence of steps might be if we want to deploy this kind of change. Yep. So hopefully in about 2 weeks, we'll have those things ready to share. And there's still plenty of design work yet to be done. So that's going to be on the roadmap.
Yeah. Speaking of design work, so I had a pairing with Strad explaining the protocol to him, Crosslink, and he suggested that there might be a way of simplifying it. So currently, the BFT chain is able to snapshot basically an arbitrary set of snapshots of currently the proof of work chain, as long as the score, so that's the accumulated work of each snapshot, increases. And what Strad suggested was that instead we should not allow rollbacks in the snapshots. So essentially, each snapshot would be a descendant of the previous one, and that has it's tricky to analyze liveness for that. Analyzing safety is, well, it follows from the previous design, because this rule is stricter than the previous increasing score rule. So I need to do a little bit of work on analyzing liveness for this variant, and if it works out, then it might sort of reduce the changes that are needed in order to implement this, and also provide a better experience, because it means that the dynamically available chain has stronger safety properties.
Any other questions or comments on that topic? Nate, do you want me to put you on the agenda for the next Arborist call in 2 weeks' time, or would you rather not be committed?
Let me look at my calendar, because I think if it's like, let me glance really quick. 2 weeks' time is
25th of Jan.
25th. Yeah, let's do that. How does that sound, Dara? Oh, you're muted.
Say again, I missed the question.
So it would be 2 weeks from now, which is like the Several days before Zboot. Like 3 or 4 days.
There should be oh, wait a minute. Actually, I might have a clash there. Let me just check.
It's the late slot on the 25th, 9 p.m. UTC.
Yep, that works.
I will do that. Okay,
Thanks.
next up we have the Sustainability Fund. I'm guessing Jason might want to give an update here.
No updates today. Thank you.
Okay, short and sweet. Next up, we have the... I hate it when I click on a PDF and for some reason macOS Preview interprets it as me wanting to edit it. Next up, we have Frost, and I think Conrado is in the hot seat today.
Yeah, I also don't have much to report. We have people time off on the holidays, so basically resumed working on adding socket communication to the demo that we have, so that you can use like over the internet. But that's it.
Right. Let's move on to any open announcements. Anybody has something they want to announce? Please raise your hand. If not, we will move on to...
Actually, there's something brewing on the ZK proof side. You know, the standardization event. It looks like we might have ZK proof 6 in Berlin right before ETH Berlin. So on May 22, 23, 24. So it's not confirmed yet, but it's looking very likely. So if anyone is in the area of Berlin around that time, it's gonna be pretty interesting, very relevant to people doing zero knowledge.
I might be able to actually come to that physically. Not sure.
I'll make a special place with special masks.
Excellent. Well, everyone should wear masks because it affects everyone. And
I know, but I'll make a room specially for you. This is supposed to be like a really cool 3 days of hardcore zero knowledge.
Sounds cool. Okay, let's move on to talk quickly about detection keys. The reason I wanna raise this is, it's one of my favorite topics. Josh Swihart, recently appointed CEO of the Electric Coin Company, has raised it on the forums, and he mentioned that he had a conversation with Paul Huey from Edge. I had a similar conversation with Paul, and Josh also mentioned some of our Taylor Hornby's comments, and this is the ticket that he links to, where Taylor talks about the need for us to effectively get away from needing to scan every transaction in order to be able to detect transactions intended for a specific key. And he talks about liberated payments and transaction tags. There's also, I also shared earlier today what I see as a potential, I'm calling this an evolutionary path instead of a roadmap, because if you say the word roadmap, people assume that A, you're going to do it for certain, and B, they start demanding timelines. So Nate, I feel your pain when it comes to leaving out dates on these things. But I personally see detection keys as a key stepping stone towards a more scalable architecture for Zcash. And one of the reasons, not the main reason, but one of the reasons behind our work on adding support for viewing keys to Zebra is that when we've added support for viewing keys, it'll be really simple to add support for detection keys, because there's a lot of overlap in terms of the purpose and functionality with regards to an external client. There's also, I think, some further down the line, after we have detection keys, then we'll be in a position to move to a situation where we can start to use out-of-band transmission of note details. And I want to pull in John here to maybe do his little demo of some stuff that's going on in elsewhere outside of the Zcash ecosystem. Dara, you have a question?
Yeah, so I think those are independent sending transactions out of band and detection keys. You can do
yes, they are.
either or both.
Yeah. Yes, they are. John, do you wanna share your screen and show?
I mean, it's a fun demo, I hope, because it's extremely simple. Let me see if I manage to do it. I have no stake here, and I didn't build any of it. Me or anyone in Kedit team. But it's called ZK Send. Do you guys know about it? ZK Login, ZK Send?
I've heard of it. I don't know much about it.
All right, so check this out. My Gmail is gonna be kind of doxed here, but on my Gmail I have a few SUI that were granted to me by the guy that built this, Costas, and I'm creating a link for 0.3, and first one to grab it won. So please grab it because otherwise I can't do the demo. This is your money. Just take it. Who's the first one? Oh,
Chris has got his phone out. Here we go.
I can see. Here's
and
what
also, John, can I just highlight? I want to highlight something here because we're going to talk about this, I think, in a moment. You can also reclaim the funds yourself. So this is really important. Okay.
Yes, I can. I can reclaim it before someone took the money. Now, you're paying by basically, okay, so who took it? First of all, who took it?
Chris,
I did.
I got it.
Who did? Nate did or Chris did?
I think I won the race.
Okay.
I'm way too slow.
All right.
Yeah,
so
my phone was over there and I couldn't type fast enough.
Okay, I'm gonna try to reclaim, and he's gonna tell me, buggers, you can't reclaim this because somebody took it. But the point here is this: the person that claimed this. So Chris, when you claimed it, can you confirm? You just basically, yeah, you said, hey, my Gmail account I accept to a awesome. You have it. I can see. You basically said, I accept. I want to log in with my Gmail account, and you had this little thing where you selected which Gmail account. You clicked on it, and that's all you had to do. You didn't, You didn't save 12 words, or you didn't do any of this stuff, right? You just basically received the money because your identity comes from Gmail, and this is how it works. It's pretty neat stuff. So you have this is like Google, the OAuth provider. There's ZK Send, this application you just saw. They issue public-private keys, and they ask Google to sign the public key. So there's a JWT token that comes back from Google with that public key in one of the fields signed by Google. And then there's a zero-knowledge proof that private key was signed by Google. And then there's a blockchain.
Who makes the proof?
So you could make it yourself, but this is like a proving service that's provided for you, which this blockchain gave.
Okay.
And so you're basically with that proof and with signatures, regular signatures of ephemeral keys that are discardable, you can move your tokens and claim your tokens, etc. So here there's like in the app there's some sort of nonce or like the salt of what goes here. There's a few more details that I'm skipping, but basically with a proof and with some ephemeral keys that reveal nothing on you, you're now the owner of those tokens under your identity. And then anywhere you'll go with this identity, if you're capable of generating a JWT token from Google, you own the funds and you can send a few funds. So the kudos to. Did you guys? Was I sharing the screen all this time or not? I don't.
Yes.
Yes, you are.
Yeah.
Just that browser.
Excellent.
Can you go back to the diagram, the architecture diagram?
Yeah, sure. Just a second. I hope I'm not butchering the whole thing, the whole story.
No, it's fine. Okay, so I'm looking at the blue boxes here, and obviously they are potential points of failure for either privacy or security. So what do each of them know, and what are you relying on each of them for?
Awesome question. Here's the deal. I want to very, very quickly do a deep dive of this and present this to the Zcash community as one of the contenders of a full zero-knowledge consent-based identity. I'm looking for other contenders for this type of work, and I want to dedicate like actual time to do this right. And we will examine what you said and anything that I can think of to examine. That's. I think we need to move fast on this because this is. It was possible to do it for a while, but now it exists. So
right.
But just to clarify and make sure that my understanding is correct here, the proof there is a proof of validity of an OAuth signature. So it ties back to some public keys that Google provides or whatnot. That's what the chain is tying back that trust to.
There's a when you verify the proof, you also have access to an oracleized version of their public key, which the SUI network gives to you. I think it's not so easy to have like those keys available. There's like a hop of like one API call, and so an oracle needs to happen.
Okay. And then the other question for the Zcash send part. So in the workflow you had there, that involved I presume a proof of stake blockchain in behind there, or something. I don't know.
So I'm not entirely sure all the details of how SUI works, but I think it has staking, and it is it's not like
that would explain why it was so quick. If its block times are like on the orders of like a couple of seconds. But then because at least without knowing the details there, that feels in terms of UX very similar to what we had proposed for liberated payments, where you're just essentially creating an intermediate transaction that is controlled both by the sender and recipient, or in the case of liberated payments, whoever you want. Whereas in this case, it would be interesting in that it could be scoped to only being controlled, like the middle transaction only being usable by the sender and recipient's IDs and no one else, which is an improvement in terms of that over the pure bearer tokens.
Well, as stated, it's a trade-off because you're relying on centralized identity.
Please send me the link to that proposal, because it's going to figure in the SOK.
Absolutely. Yeah, we should compare liberated payments with this and other approaches.
Yeah, because liberated payments were a 2019 era approach, so they didn't involve like custom ZKPs and stuff there.
Yeah. Dodger?
Thanks
for
Thanks for letting me do the demo. I'm excited about this, so I'm showing it to everyone. And kudos, Chris, for owning 0.3 SUI out of tax.
One question first. Do I need to log in with my Gmail account just to see the documentation for that? Because
no.
Okay, all right.
I think all the documentation is like public, all on the website, the SUI website.
Okay, I just couldn't find it with that link.
It's based on Growth 16. They did a trusted setup a few months back.
Okay, thanks.
There, you said something that you said something there. You said that it relies on, an OAuth service of some kind. In principle, and I'm sure somebody will correct me if this is wrong. Within the Zcash context, we don't have to rely on a third-party service in order to be able to adapt or change the Zcash protocol to make it possible to send payments that can be claimed either by the recipient in the form of a Zcash address or by the sender.
Agreed.
Okay.
Yeah. The centralized party comes in terms of when you're wanting to bind it to a centralized identity provider, unless that identity provider provides a way for trustlessly confirming that something is bound to them, which was my earlier question. And it sounds like currently the OAuth providers don't, because it's kind of misappropriating what they're doing, but like in a really neat way.
There were, apart from the user, there were 4 other blue boxes on that diagram, each of which could potentially violate privacy or some soundness property, some safety property. We need to dig into the details.
But yes, very interesting.
So part of the context for that is around out-of-band node transmission. This is something that these are concepts that have been around for years, and when we talk about a GitHub issue that's been around since 2019, I would strongly suggest that we close that GitHub issue and open a new one, because a lot of things have changed, a lot of water has gone under the bridge, and there's a lot of new work that has been done outside of the Zcash ecosystem that we should be reviewing and looking to see if there's anything that we should be looking to take advantage of, rather than sticking to a not invented here mindset.
Well, I think I mildly disagree, because I think it's worth documenting the original proposal for liberating payments, which would not be that much work, and then we can go from there.
Yeah, and also the original liberated payments design had aspects of it that were specific to the kind of UX that it was trying to achieve, which I haven't seen anyone use elsewhere yet, to my knowledge. So there are still aspects of it that I think would be interesting to potentially fold in.
Yeah, for a start, it doesn't require an interactive protocol. It's just one shot.
Yeah, and I think we may want to consider the terminology that we use, because to my mind there are 2 types of liberated-ish payments before somebody starts arguing about definitions. The first one is where you send a payment that can be claimed by whoever receives that message, no matter who they are, and then and these are both relating to out-of-band node transmission. And then the second one is where you're able to send a payment in a way that allows the recipient to claim the payment if they have the correct Zcash address, if they control the relevant Zcash address.
Yeah. Now there's sort of like either 2 or 3, I'll figure it out once I've finished, orthogonal axes here that are relevant. There's the out-of-band transmission aspect, which applies even to current existing Zcash usage, which is relevant for the scaling aspect of scanning. The thing that liberated payments was actually we had renamed to URI encapsulated payments, which is not as nice a name, but was more like accurately describing what it did. That's more about the benefit that it provided, less than being out of band, was more that you didn't need a wallet to receive a payment. That was the UX benefit of that was intended there. And then the third aspect is binding to the receiver's identity, and that's or some representation thereof. And at least with URI encapsulated payments, we didn't have the ability to both enable recoverability and enable you to receive without necessarily having a wallet. Because if you don't have a wallet, you don't have any identity to receive it to. And the proposal with the OAuth one is kind of similar in that there is still a race in terms of who can claim that first. So who sees the QR code first? So functionally, it might actually not be that different in terms of from that perspective. But there's maybe a third axis there that could potentially be explored.
Yeah, it's also worth pointing out.
Strad, you said that you said that the person didn't already have a wallet, but would it be more accurate to say that the sender does not know what the recipient's Zcash address is?
They are,
and they don't necessarily have to already have a Zcash address.
Yeah, you could say that those are equivalent. Yes, the two parts were, which I think I see as the same size. Like the sender doesn't know the receiver's address, which may or may not be because the receiver doesn't have an address yet. They obviously need to create a wallet in order to claim it, but you were able to take possession of it, like via a signal message or something, receive a message, and you are now one of the bearers of that token. And so whoever clicks the claim button first would be able to do that. So
yeah. What I was going to say is, with regard to identity, that there's two ways of thinking about identity. You can think about it as, is the intended recipient getting the funds, so the recipient intended by the sender, or you can think of it as, is a specific person getting the funds because the sender knows they want to send to a specific person. And the second of those involves an indirection, which is what introduces the perceived need for centralized identity. And I think, well, if we can achieve always getting the money to the intended sender without relying on centralized identity, then I think that's preferable.
I'll just comment that it might be preferable for some people. The opposite might be preferable for other people.
Well, if you want to document that you sent it to someone with an identity that is understood by other parties who are sort of auditing that record, then yes, that might be useful. But even that, I think, doesn't require centralized identity.
Nate.
Yeah, for this trade-off, can't we get something pretty good that's the best of both worlds? Like if I could send Zcash to a Gmail address or to a Z address, then wouldn't that allow users to sort of choose which systems they're using? Is that still a concern to you, Dara?
That sounds fine to me. So they can specify who the intended recipient is in a variety of ways, and if they choose to do that with a centralized identity system, then fine. But the system should not sort of pressure them into doing it that way, even implicitly, I think.
You also check out the Zcash. You also check out what John actually showed us and tried out, and there's multiple options, I believe, for the
identity. There are multiple options for identity available, because I think that it's actually an OAuth provider, from what was presented to me.
It's still assuming that you have a third-party provider that is and sort of implementing OAuth infrastructure is not trivial. So it's not going to be just anybody. It's in practice that implies something centralized.
Well, let's not let perfect be the enemy of progress here. Nate.
That is true, but on the other hand, we are implementing a private cryptocurrency, and that has implications for how identity is conceptualized and implemented.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I mean, I think probably most of the people on this call get this, but I just sort of want to say it for the recording so the benefit of like integrating with say Google OAuth should be pretty obvious. There's a lot of Google OAuth users and people already use those identifiers. The risk if the system relies on centralized providers too much, or especially the risk if that's the only option, is that then that provider is a gatekeeper. So they can, first of all, they can decide which users can have an address and what address they can have. They can take addresses away, so on and so forth. So as long as it's not like baked in to the system and there's still the ability to just use Zcash addresses or anything a user can generate on their own without going through any gatekeeper, then hopefully that mitigates that concern.
There's also the issue of privacy from the identity provider. So logically, there's no necessity for the identity provider to have any knowledge of the transaction. But is that actually a property of any given system? And can the identity provider see that you're doing a transaction? Oh no, you're a bad person because you sent it to this socially stigmatized recipient, and then punish you by restricting other uses of that identity, for example.
Okay, so the context of this is, number one, changing the sort of or enhancing or adding functionality to Zcash that takes us in different axes. But one of the theme that I think this aligns with is the idea that we cannot continue forever having a single ledger to which every single transaction gets written. We just simply right. So we got a thumbs up from Dara. and by the way, given the difference of our backgrounds, this is paraphrasing what somebody else once said to me. Whenever Dodger and Dara agree, you should take notice. So
we do actually agree on a lot.
We simply cannot continue forever. And obviously, we need to think carefully about how we migrate away from the current model. But the current model is that the Zcash blockchain, the Zcash ledger, is used both for recording transactions and therefore ensuring that the transactions aren't double spendable, and also communicating the information that the recipient needs in order to be able to spend the transaction that they have been spent. If we decouple those things, then that's what we're talking about in terms of out-of-band notes transmission. If we move to out-of-band note transmission, then it unblocks us from being able to move to what I think is our end state, at least within the foreseeable future, which is a succinct Mina-style blockchain model. But that requires that every transaction is sent out of band, that no transactions are written to the blockchain. In the medium term, I think that as we migrate to out-of-band note transmission, one of the requirements that we are going to have to put in place is the ability for the sender of a transaction, as John just demonstrated, to be able to claim it back if the recipient doesn't receive the necessary information or isn't capable of claiming it for some technical reason or whatever. Now, that idea, of a two-step send and claim transaction is something that has other applications, and I think we'll maybe use this as an opportunity to seg into the challenges that we're facing with Binance. So, Jason, if you want to prep yourself to give an update on what's going on there, but one of the clear potential use cases is where the recipient of a transaction does not want to receive it. This, people should, in my opinion, have the option of not accepting transactions. If I walk into a bank with $1 million in cash, they have the option of saying, "No, we're not going to accept this van full of cash."
Another strong agree. I've been saying this for years.
and it unlocks and solves various problems, including the one that we currently face with Binance. So with that, I think I saw on the chat that people were curious in hearing I think Paco was asking what's going on with the Binance Exchange address potential changes, and Jason has an update based on a call that they had last night.
Yeah, so last night, Chris, Han, and I had a call with Binance to discuss Han's proposed exchange address solution. The conversation primarily addressed some technical questions that they had. And the good news is that they ultimately signed off on the proposal from a technical standpoint. Unfortunately, they postponed the go-ahead for development until they complete a compliance review of all the privacy coins on their platform. By the sounds of it, like what they're looking to do is they want to evaluate the discussions that they've had with the various projects, whether or not they plan to adhere to their requests, and then potentially delist some coins based on this review. So if we pass the compliance review, then at that point, we'll be authorized to start development. They originally gave us a deadline.
Just to clarify,
yep.
They don't have any say in whether we start development on a feature, which might be useful for other purposes, as Dudra has just pointed out.
That's a fair point. Yep.
Yeah.
It might help, sorry, Jason, it might help if you describe exactly what the proposal was, because I think Dara's making an assumption that we're talking about a change to the protocol where in fact we're talking about a different solution.
No, I know, I understand which solution we're talking about, because Chris filled me in on what happened in the meeting as
well. Okay, so yeah, I mean, the other relevant information is they originally gave us a deadline of February 29th. It sounds like they're going to be flexible with that deadline. You know, at this point, we've pretty much done everything possible to cooperate with Binance to prevent this delisting. If we fail the compliance review, it's going to be because, you know, they're taking a hardline stance against privacy coins, and it's not due to like a lack of a viable proposal from our side. We should hear back from them with a final decision by the end of next week, or January 19th. And then I just wanted to check with Chris and see if there's anything he wanted to add to what I said.
Nope, I think that you've covered it effectively.
And to clarify what the proposal is, if I understand correctly, it's to create another address type that is essentially equivalent to a T address, except that you cannot send from shielded directly to this address. You can send indirectly.
So let me color that a little bit. The proposal is to specify a re-encoding of the existing transparent address type, and that wallets would then use, you know, so the idea is that existing wallets would not recognize that encoding and would say, well, this isn't a Zcash address, we can't send to it. Upgraded wallets would, in the case of observing that address, they would say, okay, this is a transparent address. However, the restriction on the transparent address is that the funds being sent to this address must also come from the transparent pool. And the way that I think that we will likely implement this in the Zcash Lite client SDKs is your funds remain stored in the shielded pool. If we receive, if we are asked to send to a text address, then we actually construct two transactions that are chained. one of which is a de-shielding transaction, which produces the funds into a new transparent P2PKH address, and then the second transaction which spends from that internal P2PKH address to the external recipient.
Yeah, and both of those can be done simultaneously because the second transparent, purely transparent transaction can be zero conf and spend the unmined outputs of the unshielding transaction.
Yeah.
So there's no effect on mining latency usability other than the cost of getting both of the transactions into a block.
And just to dot an I and cross a T, the intermediate T address can be completely random. It doesn't need to be controlled by the originating wallet.
Oh, that's a good point. It can be purely ephemeral.
Nate.
Yeah, three thoughts. So one is, can we use unified addresses or any other technique so that wallets that aren't aware of the new address type, but presumably have UA support, would be able to say, oh, this is a Zcash address that I don't know about yet, rather than this is not a Zcash address? I don't know if that's
no,
feasible,
because
but if it could, nice.
It will be transparent only, and by design, UAs require a shielded component.
Okay. It would be nice if there were a future-proofed way to construct addresses, so wallets could always have the ability to say, I recognize this is a Zcash
that was the
address,
intention of UAs. That's also the intention of the Zcash address crate I wrote, which is that if for anyone who is for anyone who is unaware, there is a Zcash address crate that just does address parsing and nothing else. In fact, it doesn't make any assumptions about the type you're parsing into. You can use it across an FFI to parse into your like C# address types if you want, for instance. The intention of that crate is that we can add things like this new address type into there, and all you do is bump your version of that crate, and then your parser will change from saying invalid Zcash address to unsupported Zcash address unless you also add support for that type. So that crate was intended to solve that precise problem. UAs also somewhat solve it if you are within the shielded context. But at the end of the day, like if someone has, there are many parsers out there that only parse transparent and don't parse anything else. And we're not going to be able to touch those unless the people who wrote those parsers make some change.
So it was an explicit design decision for unified addresses that a unified address always be able to provide a shielded address for senders who support that. So the Binance's requirement that they want both the recipient and the immediate sending address to be T addresses. And it's not entirely clear to me whether that is the requirement or the requirement is just to be able to send back to the money to the immediate sender. But that is directly in conflict with the original design decision for UAs. So that's why we can't use UAs.
Yeah, I think, well, okay. I disagree with that design opinion because I think in the future we're going to need future ways to send to recipients that don't support shielded that we want to enable. And every time we're going to run into a similar problem of address versioning and support.
So that is a desire to undo the original design decision, which might have merit, but we need to treat it as such. I realized that I said something incorrect before. I said that the intermediate T address could be purely ephemeral and not controlled by the originating wallet. But if the exchange does send the money back to that address, then the originating wallet needs to be able to reclaim it. And so, it does have to be controlled by that. Whether it has to be in the zip32 key tree, I don't know.
Yeah, I had two other thoughts on this. One is I am somewhat concerned that if Binance accepts this, that there's a risk, 6 months from now or a year from now, they'll say, oh, now we need, like, this isn't good enough anymore. There's like a new requirement because the requirements, like the source of the requirements and the principles behind the requirements aren't very clear. So I wanted to state that concern. The third thing was whether or not they accept this, I think it should be interesting to share this with like policy people who are working on financial regulations, privacy, and cryptocurrency as like a case study. Like, here's a thing we tried, Binance accepted it or they didn't accept it. Because I think ideally, I'm kind of an idealist, but ideally, we would have feedback back to the regulatory sources of requirements like this to help improve them. Because in my opinion, this kind of requirement seems a little confused or nonsensical, and it's not. I feel like there could be a better way to improve regulation to achieve what people, at least what the purported purpose of the regulation is. And I know that's not our lane and it's like a big ball of wax and maybe it won't ever work, but I still think we should try.
Paku?
Yeah, I think I posted this in the forums that there's always like moving goalposts regarding like this kind of things, and ultimately what we are ending up doing is probably compensating for features that we actually lack, like like selected disclosures and those kinds of things that would be ideal to have. So I agree about the regulatory documentation or having it as a case study in terms of like regulatory people work concerns. But in terms of the engineering, like we just have to focus on the abstract requirement and see how we can make this work in pure shielded world, and just to have it in mind, because I guess the ultimate goal of Zcash would be getting rid of transparent addresses and all the legacy code it entails. So if we don't have this functionality or abilities to comply to some selected disclosure of payments from users, then we won't be able to actually like get rid of T or something of that. I guess that's my speculation.
I agree 100%. Because if it had been clearer that the actual requirement was that it be possible to refuse a payment, then we would never have ended up with this new ad hoc address type as a way of implementing that, I think, especially not something tied to T addresses. Well,
the one thing I'll say is
that's complicated, actually.
With these conversations, the actual requirement is often not defined, or the actual requirement is that from the exchange's perspective is we need to keep our regulators happy. That's what the actual requirement is, and how successful an engagement with that sort of a regulated entity is, in my opinion, is heavily influenced by how supportive the entity is of privacy. So you take Gemini for as an example. Any person who supports Zcash who has the option of using Gemini instead of another exchange should use Gemini, and the reason is that the guys behind Gemini have gone way above and beyond. They've they've really put a huge amount of effort into getting their regulators to understand Zcash, and they've been supportive of Zcash. There have been conversations when I was still at ECC where we had conversations directly with the regulator, you know, with Gemini's sort of assistance and whatnot to help ensure that there was an understanding of the real risks involved. Now you have other regulators who aren't so open to those sorts of conversations, and you have exchanges whose sole objective is to make money, and they make a purely commercial decision where they look at how much trading revenue do we get by supporting Zcash, how much is it going to cost us to do the enhanced due diligence that is necessary, and they make a purely financial decision and they delist us. Whereas Gemini, I think it on the whole, I would guess that it probably costs Gemini to list Zcash and support Zcash. But it also matters hugely who you're talking to at the regulated entity. So you often have people who are relatively junior who work in operations at the back office, and they don't really have genuine decision-making capability. All they know is that they've got to deal with this problem, and you end up dealing with a middleman who has no real understanding and no ability to make decisions. So, you know, Nate's point that they could turn around. So first of all, they could, no matter what we do, they could just choose or they could choose to go ahead and delist Zcash. The requirements could change. The pressure that they're under could be such that it doesn't matter what we do, they just go ahead and delist us because we're a quote privacy coin, unquote. And nobody on this call should be under any illusion that there is a lot of focus and a lot of pressure on Zcash. And if it were up to the powers that be, Zcash would cease to exist. A lot of stuff that's going on. And this is just, I think, one visible symptom of that. But I'll let others speak. Chris.
Sorry, I shifted away. I'll lower my hand for now.
There.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, so on Nate's suggestion to use this feature as kind of a case study for regulators, I would be concerned that they might draw the wrong conclusion because of the conflation of the use of T addresses with the if this actually is the requirement to be able to refuse funds. And being able to refuse funds seems to me like a perfectly reasonable thing that is not at all incompatible with privacy. But if they draw the wrong conclusion and think this is about only using T addresses in certain circumstances, then it could even be counterproductive.
Yeah, sorry, just to clarify, I was not talking about us engaging regulators, but engaging good crypto policy people who are engaging regulators, like
right, okay,
you know, like Paul at ECC or Coin Center or whoever who kind of understands the issues pretty well.
It would be much easier to explain to them why we did it and what we think the actual requirement might be.
Chris, up, down, in, out. Okay. I also want to call on John. Okay, if he's still here. Or has he left? Looks like he may have left actually. Because yeah, I don't see him.
There was also somebody in text who said they wanted to give an update. So it seems like they wanted to give an announcement about a full node wallet, but they missed the announcements window.
Yeah, I'm just going to say, right, if you want to give a presentation, have a chat with Decentralist Dan about that and see if we can schedule something, because we don't really do grant-based presentations on the Arborist call. Just to say that, but go ahead with what you want to say or ask. You need to unmute yourself. Okay.
You appear to still be muted, Rene. Even though your hand's up.
Oh, there we go. You're unmuted now. Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. That's the first time I've been triple muted. Okay. Well, hi everyone. It was suggested that I should come here to do a quick discussion based on the proposal that we submitted for CCG to create a full node wallet on top of Zebra. And there were questions about, are we duplicating efforts? What is the roadmap for Zebra? And I think that that's probably the more relevant discussion here. And also if there are any questions from the Zebra team regarding this topic. I think that based on the responses on the forum to the proposal, I think that there's interest from the community. But that was one of the topics of the discussion is like, okay, well, what does the Zebra team have to say about this proposal? What are the plans? How are we coordinating? And that's kind of my main focus for today.
Cool. So let me say straight off that the Zebra team does not have any plans to build a wallet. We are building functionality into Zebra that will support external wallets like the one that you proposed. And am I pronouncing your name correctly, Rene?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. So yeah, again, I think somebody on the forum said, "Oh, have you checked whether the Zebra team, or it's on the Zebra team's roadmap to, are you duplicating effort?" This is not duplicative of effort. So let's just make that absolutely clear. One other thing I wanted to highlight was somebody was asking about which platforms it's going to be built on, and I wanted to highlight that if you are planning to use Zebra's Light Wallet RPCs, then you don't need to run what you're proposing to build on the same machine. You can run it on a different machine and have Zebra. You could run it on Windows and have Zebra running on a Linux host, and have your wallet take advantage of Zebra.
Well, as long as the protocol between them is secure. Yeah.
Yeah. The point that I wanted to make is similar here, which is that I think that the conceptual distinction between full node wallets and light wallets is an artificial one, because what we're really talking about, historically, the full node wallet has been sort of embedded in the same process, and what are called light wallets have been outside the process. But a wallet is a wallet, and its source of data may be the light client protocol, or it may be some other mechanism for retrieving data. And so if we can decouple the question of what is the source of data from whether it's light or in process, and we can also I think that the goal should be a set of libraries that can support the full range of Zcash wallet functionality, and that give you a choice of source of data.
Yeah, like if we think about what a full node wallet is trying to replace, what it's trying to replace is the Zcash G wallet and the functionality that provides, primarily the transparent functionality, because that's what we really don't have implemented anywhere outside of Zcash D in terms of a full node level integration.
Wait, hang on. That's one of the things that it might be trying to achieve. The other is that there are security properties that you can achieve from a full node wallet that you might not be able to achieve, at least via the light client wallet protocol as it's currently defined.
Yes. Well, no, so you could achieve it via the light wallet client protocol by just only connecting to a local light wallet that only connects to your local full node.
That is not clear to me.
Oh, what? I don't understand what's the distinction.
So even if you fully trust the like what the provider, we need to check that that is the case, because it's not obvious to me that you can do everything that you need to do just via the light client protocol.
Rene, would you like to
talk about this separately? Yeah,
Rene.
Well, from our perspective, we have used the full node wallet for our other application, and as part of it, we kind of have already developed a little bit of a proof of concept of this idea of a quote unquote external wallet sitting on top of the node in order to implement unified viewing keys. That was not available in Zcash. We needed it for our application. So our idea is that we can build upon that for additional functionality and follow the same pattern, but instead using the actual private keys and support, adding the support that we've already built on top of it, with the idea that also we'll have a more user-friendly front end for the full node, which is one of the things that right now kind of SegWallet full node has left a gap in the ecosystem, and using Zcash CLI is it's definitely not what I would say user friendly if somebody just wants to run a node and send Zec to people, and that's what we are trying to implement there.
I have a question about the so if you're working atop a Zcash wallet, then presumably you're depending upon the Zcash RPC methods for your functionality. I'd suggest as an alternative, there's the Zcash client backend crate that we use as the data abstraction layer for the light wallets, but that also provides it provides all of its functionality actually in terms of full viewing keys, unified full viewing keys. So we should just discuss about technical approaches. I'm happy to do that offline, or right now there's a related discussion happening in the Zebra channel on the Zcash R&D Discord. So it would be good to talk there.
Sounds good. Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, just to reiterate, this does not this would not duplicate any effort currently planned by the Zcash team, and modulo people's concerns about the security between the host running the wallet and the host running the Zebra node. As far as I'm aware, there's no reason why you couldn't have one running on Windows and one running on Linux, which is the only platform that Zebra currently supports.
Yeah, just to clarify what I was talking about the light client protocol. I think if there were anything missing from that, then it would be relatively easy to add.
One thing I just want to comment about here, just to highlight that if we were to adopt detection keys, then we would so as soon as we implement detection keys, we are in a position to effectively move to an entirely new generation or version of a light client protocol, where you no longer have to download the entire population of shielded transactions that might potentially relate to your key, albeit in the form of compact blocks, and you can move to a situation where, if you want to, you can provide your detection key to a provider like Edge. And just to reiterate that for those who ask, who's requesting this, Paul Pui from Edge is requesting this basically. And we could end up with a situation where we get significantly better UX and the ability to sunset the existing light wallet D stack in favor of something that connects directly to a Zebra node. Chris.
So Dodger, can I ask a question? Does ZF have resources to devote to developing the detection key standard and implementing it? Because I mean, I feel like that would be a you know, I think it's a great thing to do. There's just
as I've said publicly, I would love for there to be a joint team with engineers from multiple organizations to work together on this. So basically, the ball is in Josh's court right now as regards to whether he wants to discuss collaboration to move this forward. But we would definitely be interested in working to move it forward. Like I said, the work that we're doing currently with regards to viewing keys, one of the advantages of doing that work is that it can be relatively straightforwardly repurposed to support detection keys as well. But
well, the technical approaches that I'm aware of for doing detection keys, so the most obvious one is nested encryption, and that requires a protocol change.
Detection keys requires a protocol change, yes,
right, okay.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah, so that has implications for the timeline when it can be added.
Yeah, 100% it requires protocol change. I don't think anybody expects otherwise, unless somebody can come up with some clever way of maybe repurposing the memo field. I don't know. Could be possible.
Well, there's lots of we can do.
Obvious. There you go. I'm just nerd sniped there.
with V6 memos. So
okay.
Oh, that's a really good point. Yeah, you might be able to do it if you have arbitrary memo space. I have to think about that.
Anyway, we are past time, and I should show. So yeah, the making progress on detection keys is something that we are totally open to discussing. But just expecting, you guys should do it, and therefore we're going to do it is. Well, I mean, I don't think is reasonable.
Full disclosure. Right now, the ECC engineering team is still rather heavily loaded between our support for the light wallets and the proof of stake research. So, obviously, what we're prioritizing is up for discussion, and that is a Josh level question. I'm just saying that if you want a time commitment, it's going to come at the cost of something else.
Yeah. Yes. Saying choosing priorities is about saying no to everything apart from the one or two things that you're prioritizing. That is the unfortunate reality, and it's a hard choice often. Nate.
Yeah, I was just going to point out that the ECC zboot is all about figuring out for things like detection keys, should we be reprioritizing at ECC? And that's coming up in 2 weeks, and others are invited, but they have to pay their own way, and because we're on a shoestring and we're improvising. And I saw a question in text, why won't it be recorded? I'm not certain, but I think maybe the thought was we wanted people to be unrestricted in discussing stuff about ECC and what we should be doing and what how our past has been and what we can improve and things like that. That's my guess. So yeah, that's just context for everybody. So maybe in 4 weeks, we at the Arborist call, we'll have a lot of updates about we discussed this and that, and we're thinking we're going to prioritize these things now, and we can help with this, but not with that. I think we'll hopefully have more clarity by that time.
Derek?
I had lowered my hand.
Okay. Well, let's leave it there. And reminder, the next Arborist call is on the 25th of January in the later slot of 9 p.m. UTC. But for now, I will say good evening, good night, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you happen to be, and have a good couple of weeks. Cheerio.
Bye all.
Thank you. Bye.